warm welcome once again to everyone who has taken the time to join us here today. Very distinguished audience, I must say. And also, for those of us who were here earlier, I'm sure you'd agree with me that it's been a really well-spent time so far. The initiative that the AWB has is one that, in my opinion, it's actually a catalyst. It is something that will catalyze what is potentially a world changer. We hear a lot of talk about diversity and inclusion. We hear a lot of talk about women are vulnerable, women are disadvantaged. But this, for me, I think is one of the attempts to actually, put an effort behind addressing the issue. And for those of us who may be wondering why, the AWB decided to focus on the legal profession and, by extension, the corporate legal community, and I will come in a moment to the distinguished panel that I have the honor of moderating. I think part of the idea is that if the people in the legal profession, anyone who is ordinarily impacted by this would think of running to, are themselves victims of this scourge, then it is an appropriate place to start. It's an appropriate place from where we can expect to then see that multiplier effect on the entire society, not just in Nigeria, I would say internationally. So I would say watch this space. Now to my panelists, welcome. Thank you so very much, everyone on this distinguished panel. I know each and every one of them, by the way, in person. And, I told them before we started that I have the privilege and the power. We've been talking about, imbalance in power all day. I have the power to decide who to ask the most difficult questions. And they have been lobbying me, but they're only using mouth to lobby. So as we go along, you will find that I'm going to ask some people more difficult questions than others. But I'm really pleased that we have a panel that can do justice to this subject. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please remember, now we are focusing on the private sector, on the legal community in the private sector. We're focusing on the people, not just, we've spoken extensively about, the educational institutions earlier today. We've spoken extensively about law practice. Now, there are lawyers who work in-house. I'm one of them, and all of these distinguished ladies and gentlemen are leaders in their own right in the legal community in Nigeria, in the corporate legal community in Nigeria. So it's indeed a panel that I believe will do justice to the subject. So I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm watching the time. I'd said to each and every one of them that I'm going to be giving them 2 minutes to first, share their views about the subject, but I'm reducing that to 1 minute now each. So this is your opening pitch, ladies and gentlemen. The subject of the Modern General Counsel, diversity and inclusion, especially in male-dominated industries, and some of us here are in that industry. So if you work in FMCG where there's manufacturing, if you go to the factories, you can have 500 people working there, and 99% of them are men. How do women survive? How do women thrive? How do women progress in that kind of environment without being victims of, sexual harassment or being, in one way or the other manipulated? And of course, we're talking about the private sector as a whole. So I'll start with you, Abidemi. Share in 1 minute, and we can all see the clock, so I'll stop you when it's 1 minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I think this topic is really very apt, and for me, the way I've looked at it is that as lawyers, because we're general counsel, we work in-house, but we're lawyers, it's at the foundation of our being to actually foster, promote, be at the forefront of driving equality, all right? Equity. Remember, we all did equity and trust and all of that. And so this topic is such that for us, it's like preaching to the converted, because we have to be at the forefront of it. That's how I've seen myself, to say, in my organization, even though recently diversity and inclusion has come to the forefront as part of ESG and ESG pillar and all of that, even before then, is to say that we have to foster an environment, a work environment, where people feel safe to come, where they feel that I will be treated properly, I will be treated equally. Recently I was listening to a leader talking about civility in the workplace. And this guy, this is all he consults on, that when people come to work, they feel that they want to come to work. So this is something that I feel that as a general counsel, whether we're modern, whether we're traditional, I think it should be at the front burner for us. We should be at the forefront of driving diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And not just by policy, but by the things that we do. Being there to, call the attention of management, call the attention of people to the fact that this thing that we're about to do, have we considered this group of people? Have we considered that group of people? Have we taken their opinions on board to make sure that, really people feel that they are part of the organization and they're contributing to its objectives?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look, if this was a debate, Abidemi, I would have deducted some points. So I want my panelists to help me going forward. We're still also going to have our opening pitch, but please watch that clock yourself. So I'm turning to my big egg now, Mr. Kosoko. You've got 1 minute for the opening pitch on the subject.
First, I counted the privilege to be here and to be talking about this. I believe that what is important is for us to first understand that these issues are not just new, they have cultural implications. Let me put it more, cultural issues, the foundation of a lot of this. So it is first understanding the root and then realizing that we can't make much progress if we don't address these cultural ingrained habits of a male-dominated society where we put so much emphasis on the women and the ladies, and then we don't do too much with the men. With the men growing up with a sense of entitlement and a culture of entitlement. These are matters that I believe, as a lawyer, as a general counsel, we are well positioned to begin to address, but that we wouldn't make much progress unless we go to the root of the cultural foundations.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, next I go to Fola.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to AWB for inviting me to be a panelist on this very relevant and apt topic. So, D&I and equity, basically the world generally is seemingly divided, and each and every one of us here, we have our own personality uniqueness, whether it's age, gender, ethnicity, physical ability. And it's, as general counsel and as a leader in any organization or any firm, is to recognize and accept people for who they are. Because this, my organization, Cadbury Nigeria PLC, which is a subsidiary of Mondelez International, as an organization, we realize that diversity and inclusion and equity is business imperative. It's a success enabler. It drives engagement, it drives profitability, it drives growth in the business. And we believe that as individuals, as a business, even our products should reflect what we stand for. And this is D&I. It's not just to be diverse, it's also to include. So even though we're diverse, we should accept and value the differences.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, AY.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be here as well. And I just want to say one or two things. You've heard the speaker say a lot about the importance of inclusion. However, I want to look at it from the standpoint of how it impacts the company's bottom line. I think what we want to achieve is have a workplace where everybody feels welcome, everybody feels are able to produce and be at their best potential. And I saw a report by SERDA recently, which was published, I think it's about 2 days ago, that spoke about the impact of women on the boards. It showed that for companies that recorded 10% growth in their gross profit, about 60% of them had some female on the board, whereas male-dominated boards accounted for just about 30%. So it shows that females on the boards have this important impact. And as general counsels, if you are supporting the board in achieving increased efficiency and effectiveness, what it means then is that it should be seen as a strategic trust for the board to ensure inclusion. Because not just are we talking about it in terms of jumping on the fad, not only are we talking about it in terms of regulatory compliance, but it's also a strategic point in terms of the impact on the bottom line. And so it's very important that as we speak about it to ensure that there's inclusion, not just only in terms of gender, but also in terms of people with disabilities as well.
Thank you very much, AY. Thank you very much. I don't know whether there's a conspiracy going on here between my panelists, because I think they're conspiring to spend a lot of time to prevent me from asking them plenty of questions. But I've spoken to the organizers. We will have more time, panelists. So I have questions now, and I'm going to be asking that, Abidemi, given your role and also your experience, I know that you've been very active in the section on business law, SBL of the Nigerian Bar Association, immediate past chairman of that committee, am I correct? The Corporate Counsel Committee of SBL. Please share with us, in your opinion, how has the role of the General Counsel evolved or changed, and what, in your view, are the new demands? What skills do modern General Counsel need to succeed, particularly as lawyers and business leaders? And how can General Counsel balance their duties to the board of directors and management of companies, especially as it concerns the issue of diversity and inclusion?
Right, thank you. So the world itself has evolved, and it continues to evolve. I think that a wise General Counsel needs to evolve, even try to do so ahead of the curve, so that you don't become extinct, your role doesn't become irrelevant in the organization. So I'll look at it from the point of view of business, first of all, and point of view of the skills that you need in terms of driving the D&I agenda for the organization. So in terms of, the business, the businesses are looking for GCs or lawyers that do not approach them as lawyers, but as business leaders who have legal skills. So you have to build the business acumen. You need to understand, the bottom line, and all of top line and everything. All the seeming business jargons that are used, but they are very critical, to the organization, metrics that are used and everything. So that's on one side. On the other side is, I believe that, the modern or evolving GC must also develop skills around being empathic, empathy. Because in the organization, you really stand as the conscience of the organization. People look up to you, not only for legal matters, but when they're considering even appointments, positions, you're consulted, whether directly or indirectly. They want to know your opinion. They want to know your views. So it's very important that you have empathy. And you also, and I know that care is not normally something that we talk about in the workplace, but it's something that is really also evolving, because in this evolving world, there's a lot happening. People have mental health issues. People have all sorts of things they're dealing with. So as the GC and as people look at you, they look up to you in the organization, you must be able to, reach out to people, understand them, try and help them to be the best that they can be in that organization. So that's on one hand. In terms of the board role right now, it's also bringing all of this agenda to the forefront of the board. So recently, I really started to rein in things around ESG to my board, because I know that it's a big topic. And even though Unilever is big on sustainability, it's something that even before it became a big topic, we had been talking about it. Because really, the person who founded our organization started it on the basis of wanting to provide hygiene for women who work in the factory.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that for us, it has the foundation of our business. It's part of our business. It's not CSR. It's not, this is our business model. It's our purpose. It's part of our purpose.
I'm going to come back to you on that subject.
Sorry.
I will come back to you because it's an interesting subject that you've touched on. But I think you've helped us to lay the foundation for how general counsel should conduct themselves in modern businesses. So now I'm going to lead on from that and ask Sheye, please help us. I want to be more specific about the question, the subject that we're dealing with now. Please help us to address the subject of what do you think is the role of male leaders and colleagues in changing a toxic work environment for their female colleagues? I know you work in the banking, you're a guru in the banking industry. How do you think general counsel can ensure that company management are adhering to relevant local and global rules, and it's not just lip service? What exactly a GC, a general counsel, or a lawyer in the legal department of a corporate should be doing to facilitate ensuring that the environment for work is not toxic for women?
Thank you very much. Abidemi has already talked about empathy. And when I was talking, when I first did introductory remarks, I said that we need to have an understanding of the foundational issues. And I will be speaking concerning our local Nigerian environment. And it is this, as a general counsel, realizing that it's, like I said, a male-dominated society. One of the forces we need to understand is to unlearn those things that have been taken for granted, those things that I will call male privileges. It is just taken for granted. We don't really realize there's an unconscious bias in the way we approach things. But when we go to school, Prof is there, she's my lecturer, and when we go to school, we all read together. The girls sometimes do better than us and everything. How then do we come to the workplace and begin to think that they are less able? And so those are things that we need to first address and realize that it's something that is ingrained, and all of us have a role to play, both male and female. And so as a general counsel and working in a male-dominated society, the first thing is to foster an environment where everybody, whether male or female, believe that I will be measured on my performance, my ability, and on merit, not because of my gender. That is very fundamental and very important. So those are the kind of things that one begins to work. And what you realize is once this becomes imbibed, as a lot of progress has been made. So from now we have a lot of women in senior roles and everything. We'll also work towards raising other women. But the foundational thing that we need to do is to all realize that there's a cultural problem we all have a responsibility to address so that we don't foster it and continue it, perpetuate it concerning the future generation. So it's about encouraging and showing and working towards awareness and fostering an environment of merit and equality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fola, I'm coming next to you. We know that there are examples of, in this our Obodo Nigeria, there are examples of fantastic women that are doing very well. And I'm being particular about the corporate world. I'm pleased to say that on the board of Guinness Nigeria, we have 4 fantastic ladies. Indeed, one of them is the chairperson of the board. But Fola, my question to you is, we understand that women have made significant advancements in senior leadership, some women. But some people believe that some female leaders who have overcome the challenges associated with accessing top leadership positions are sometimes unwilling to support or mentor younger women looking to advance professionally. In your view, Fola, is this a myth or a misconception? Or what do you then think is the role of a woman who is in senior leadership position in empowering younger women in the workplace?
I think it's both. I mean, previously, especially people have a long time ago, I would say most people felt women weren't lifting each other up, they weren't encouraging each other. But what we can see now is that we see organizations like WIMBIZ, we see organizations like Whisker, women in successful careers, and I'm a mentor with Whisker. We see faith organizations, whether Christian or Muslim, and encouraging and empowering other women.
Well, don't forget AWB. We also see AWB.
At the WIMBIZ, there's a man. Okay, but basically, I would say, yes, we have the individuals that would discourage, that would bring a woman down. And I would say it's a personal thing. It's a character flaw in a particular woman who is discouraging and not empowering another woman. As a leader and as a general counsel, it's for me to be a role model, to empower, to encourage, to celebrate those who work with me and celebrate other women, to work with integrity, to be diligent, to work hard, and to stand out and show that, look, you can get here with or without your male colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ayo, some people feel that some women avoid male-dominated industries or careers that are male-dominated. And I know that you work for a manufacturing, an FMCG. Many of us, indeed, a majority of us on this panel work for FMCGs, where you have, factories dominated by women. Some other people feel that women choose, some women choose to build a successful career in these so-called male-dominated industries, despite the barriers. So what, in your view, do you think needs to be done to close this gender gap in these industries? And how can corporations implement tangible policies that promote diversity, equality, and safe workplaces?
Okay, thank you, Rotimi. I'll say that first, like a friend will say, there is no free meal in Freetown. And what this means is that, as it relates to what we're saying, is that people won't just, I'm not so sure we can make an argument for people to just give appointments to ladies or, people who can make an argument for inclusion just based on the fact of your gender. So I'll say that a lot has to do with capacity building. We need to ensure that the females in our organizations are built up to the extent where, when appointments or responsibilities are being given, there's a lot of trust in their capacity to deliver in the role. I am also going to say this at the same point, that organizations must also be very careful to ensure there's a balancing act in equal opportunities and inclusion of women, because there's a potential danger in us actually trying to jump to the fad, in trying to join the to include women in our top positions, and then start denying some other persons of opportunity. So I'll say that inclusion. Before we start talking about inclusion, it's important that we build capacity. It's also important that both male and female are there when they are in the room when decisions are being made, and so they develop an interest in leadership positions as well. Then finally, I'll say that the General Counsel has a role to play in terms of the fact that being support to the board, the tone at the top is very critical, and so if the board is going to be sending out the message across in the organization wide that ladies are welcome and persons with disabilities as well are welcome in that organization, the company secretary would do well to guide the organization in that regard, because it's not enough to develop policies. policies can always be developed, and if the tone at the top does not support the implementation of those policies, they are just paper documents.
Thank you so very much,
Okay.
Ayo. Tone at the top.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you to my panelists, but you're not free just yet, even though we've run out of time. But I have successfully negotiated 1 hour extra. Am I correct? No, just kidding. So, Q&As. I don't know, it feels like maybe my panelists are, dealing with my questions too easily. So I'd like people in the audience who have really difficult questions to ask these ladies and gentlemen. Do I have anyone with any questions, maybe comments? Maybe you want to challenge some of the propositions that have been made? Yes, I've got one over here.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Onwe, the president of Association of Lawyers with Disabilities in Nigeria.
You're welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. I'm really impressed by what I've heard my panelists say. I just want to add a dimension, and I thank you, Ayo, for emphasizing on that. That's persons with disabilities. Now, when we are also talking about inclusion of women, it's also important to take note of women with disabilities, because they suffer double jeopardy. They suffer all the jeopardies that an average woman suffers, and all the jeopardies that the average person with disability suffer. Thank you.
Daniel, you have not asked any question, because you've brought up such an important perspective. I was hoping you were going to direct a question to someone here. And really, I have to thank you, because I never thought about it that way. Double jeopardy. But if you have a question, please feel free. But I think,
Okay, yes, my question will actually be, what provisions are we making at our respective companies or workplaces to accommodate and what, as we say it in the technical sense, give reasonable accommodation to them? What I'm saying is not issue of lowering standard, but giving them a level playing field so that they can compete on equal basis with every other woman and every other man.
Thank you so very much, Daniel. Now, do you give me the permission to decide who I'm going to direct the question?
Yes, sir.
Or you want to do it yourself?
No, do that.
Okay, yes. Yes, Sheye, please.
Thank you very much for that question. And I must say that it's a very, very important question. And when I was talking about fostering a level playing field, I took it for granted that we were talking about just both women, those with disabilities, and everything. The reason is that it is very, very imperative that we have empathy in understanding the peculiarities that different categories go through. And I was very glad with his bringing that out about the women with disabilities. And so, one of the ways I believe is to model the right behavior. Speaking for my organization, these are principles that we have imbibed from the board down to all the subsidiaries, and we make particular emphasis in weighing this across when we are making decisions on appointments and so on. So I can speak for the organization that I represent, and I can also speak for the Nigerian Bar Association and the Corporate Council Forum, which I have the privilege of chairing, that this is one of the terms of our appointment, the committee, the forum, and one of the objectives to ensure and to foster as much as possible across legal departments, in-house, and across corporates, a level playing field, giving particular emphasis on women and people with disability.
Thank you so very much. I'd have loved to give all the other members of the panel an opportunity, but I think I can still take one more question. Yes, the lady just behind Dr. Ballon. Yes.
So my question is actually in two parts for two people, well, two groups. One for the finance sector specifically, and the other for FMCG. Unfortunately, that's my experience, so I have to pose it that way. So I've had an experience where I was actually sexually harassed in my workplace, And in confronting the person, it was actually the general counsel of the organization that crafted the letter to basically, I would say, threaten me, right, to not take action, right? And then in the second situation, another young lady who I worked with to help her find some help was working for a brand, like I said, an FMCG brand. Obviously at night, she's working marketing, and she was kidnapped by some people, and of course, the rest is history. But till today, nothing has ever happened, and this was, everybody obviously knows about it. So I guess my question is, how do we, what are the things, what are the, I guess, actions that people like you, right, in those positions can do? And how does somebody in my position, find the help that you need, you know what I mean? If the general counsel of your organization is the one actually, working against you. Thank you.
I'll say something from the manufacturing sector, or from, I'll just say a leader, a woman, generally. In respect of the sexual harassment in an organization like ours, and what I expect should be in any organization, what we have processes in place. Apart from that, the culture of the organization should show from joining the organization. And that should be something that there should be awareness, ongoing awareness. But in your situation, if that sort of situation came to our organization, fine, we have the policy of zero tolerance for sexual harassment. We support diversity and inclusion. There should be one open door policy to walk in to talk to anyone. If it's your boss who's actually harassing you, then we have a speak-up policy, a robust speak-up policy, and we also have an anonymous line. So apart from there's a process for speak up, whether it's your supervisor, you go to your supervisor, and beyond. But there's also a dedicated helpline that you can report to the global office. And then an investigation is done and appropriate actions will be taken. We had a situation where somebody who was even in HR a while ago was harassing and actually getting sexual favors from many interns and youth corpers, promising them that, or if you don't sleep with me, you won't get the job. Meanwhile, the opening weren't there, but he said they should meet, And of course, when that came to our attention, the person was dismissed, they might not want to take any action. The person wasn't in the employment anymore who brought it to our attention, wasn't there. But we took appropriate action apart from his performance, which was below par. That sort of action was taken. So we have those processes in place, but it's not just a tick box exercise, it has to work. So we have to see that it works. So we have the process that if it's someone in a senior position who's doing the harassment, there's an opportunity to go outside that line. So you'll be able to, the action will be taken, whether it's internal or external.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fola. Honestly, I really wish that we can continue. My clock has been ticking for the past 10 minutes.
Take it offline.
Yes, I would really like to thank everyone, the panelists and the audience. I know that these ladies and gentlemen seated here are very active in the legal community in the corporate sector. The Corporate Counsel Forum of the Nigerian Bar Association, the SBL. I know that they are mostly members of the Association of Company Secretaries and Legal Advisors. They are members of the Committee of Legal Advisors of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association. So we've got the right set of people, but like I said earlier when we started, what AWB has put together should catalyze, a change that really should go beyond what we're doing in this room. And I also want to encourage everyone who's in the audience to say, in whatever way you can carry on this crusade of ensuring that we provide safe working environment for everyone, and especially vulnerable people who are like women or the differently abled people, we should all take those steps. Thank you so very much for your audience.